Recently crowned the number one position of PrintWeek's Power 100, Ramesh Kejriwal of Parksons Packaging visited the PrintWeek Studio. Among other things, he spoke about his Drupa experience and the present and future of packaging.
So first and foremost, Mr. Kejriwal, uh, welcome. As you know, I'm a huge fan of yours. For the last, almost 3.5, 4 decades, I've been seeing you, meeting you, interacting with you, listening to you, and learnt a lot. And I'm hoping that over the next 1 hour it continues. I
Thank
know
you very much, Ramu,
Thank you.
for having me here.
Sure.
It's a pleasure to always talk to you.
Right. And since I wasn't at Drupa, and I know you were there at Drupa, and you are obviously a keen watcher of technology and what is transpiring and unfolding, curious to know from you right at the outset what you saw and how was Drupa this, because it's also been a Drupa after a substantial period of time, and what was it that you were looking out for, and how did Drupa surprise you?
So I would say this time Drupa was little bit of a disappointment in terms of number of people that were visiting.
Okay.
Of course, on the technology side, I think the main attraction was digital.
Okay.
And I would say in that regard, highlight for me was also Benny Lenda's nanography technology, where they displayed two high-end machines, one for commercial printing
Sure.
and one for packaging.
Right.
I think that was something eye-opener. We have seen Benny Lenda's journey for
Yes.
last so many years.
Yep.
But I truly believe what they've showed in this Drupa could be a game changer in terms of commercialization of this technology
That's interesting.
very soon.
Yeah. So since you mentioned digital, you mentioned Mr. Landa. In terms of inkjet, was there anything that sort of again struck you? And this is a question that we keep getting asked regularly: that is India ready for inkjet, and how much of it, packaging is ready to adopt?
I think in terms of inkjet, we did not see much
Yep.
headway in that sense that there is a phenomenal shift in terms of technology.
Sure.
There
sure.
could be some
Incremental, yeah.
incremental thing, but I think what I truly still believe that nanography will go a long way.
Right.
The other thing which we saw was also the technology from KBA,
Of course.
the Veryjet, which was also eye-opener, but we don't know how much commercial headway it's going to make over a period of time.
Got it. Got it. And again, of course, your forte, which is cartons. Anything in cartons which you think is important? It could be, a structure. It could be tech upgrades, or anything that again you feel that something that the industry should be aware of.
I think cartons now need a lot of value addition.
Sure.
And one of the equipment that we were fascinated was with the Kurz,
Oh yes.
where they have transformed the Steinerman machine.
Okay.
They bought the company Steinerman about 5 years back, and they showed a machine with a lot of value addition, which is of course a very high-end productive machine.
Sure.
But in terms of value addition, what it could do
Yep.
was a game changer.
Sure. Got
So
it.
that is something I would say a great thing to watch. I don't know, we are still trying to understand the commercial part to how it can take it forward, but I think
Right.
that was one of the
Yep.
big things that we
Right.
saw.
So this is embellishment in terms of foils mainly.
It's foil and a lot of other things it could
Okay,
do.
features, yeah.
Features,
Nice,
yeah,
nice, nice. And of course, we have to come back to, you being the sort of number one for the Power 100. Congratulations on this.
Thank you.
And I think there are 2 or 3 aspects which we should be sharing with you. One is, of course, popularity. Second is, of course, profitability. And third is what we call the progressive quotient, that how progressive Parksons is. And of course, we also try to get some feedback from your customers. And generally, it's been, super positive from almost all quarters. But the fourth thing was your peers, the fourth P. A lot of people who are part of this Power 100 have been people who have, been talking about you. And of course, I think one thing that has come across among all of them is the fact that you help the industry, dream the dream and of course realize the dream, I think on 2 aspects. So coming one to Parksons, I know right now it's 13 manufacturing plants.
Yeah.
Right. And what's the plan now for 2024 and how and what next?
So first of all, Ramu, I would like to thank all the colleagues from the industry.
Right.
And I think the popularity is not so important, but the friendship
True.
that I have acquired over a period of time with all my uh, printer friends is
Yep.
phenomenal.
True.
And that's one of the big asset for me
Hmm.
to whatever level of growth Parksons would have achieved.
Sure.
But keeping company with all the printers, whether it's a small or a medium or a
Yep.
big, is a great satisfaction for me.
Absolutely.
Coming to Parksons, what 2024 is, I think one of the new things that we have brought this year is the Flexo cum gravure technology with web-fed
Yep.
system with inline die cutting
Yes.
and sheeting as well. I think we are about to start that machine very soon.
Sure.
So that's something new that I think we have brought to the table for packaging. And I think we are still not familiar with Flexo so much.
Yes.
And also web-fed system. But as I always believe, it's a learning process. And Flexo has come to a level in terms of printing quality
Sure.
that
Of
it
course.
can almost match offset quality.
Yep. Yep.
So I think that's what we are doing. Second thing, as you all know, that we acquired Manohar, which has already merged, and it is now part of Parksons. MK is still running as an independent company, but I think we have started the process of integration strongly with MK,
Sure.
and we are in the process of amalgamating MK as well as the Parksons name. So that should happen in 2024.
Sure. Sure.
That's the second thing. And of course, we are always hunting for another acquisition. And hopefully,
Right.
I don't know,
Right.
you should hear at least one more acquisition in 2024.
That's wonderful. So just curious, because I'm sure 100 people are, wanting to know this answer to this is, what is the top 3 things you look out for or which are on your radar when you're, eyeing a good converting company here?
So first and foremost, we look at the promoters or
Yep.
people who are running the company.
Integrity. yeah.
Integrity, that's very important for us. And as you know, that folding carton industry is a very closely knit, setup
Yep.
among India.
Yep.
So we know the promoters well,
course.
more or less. So first thing which we see is the quality of promoters
Yep.
in terms of their integrity, in terms of their passion for business, and how they build the business.
Of course.
Second, what we try to look is something which they have, which is better than what we have.
Nice.
And to give you an example, when we acquired Manohar, I think they were masters in producing Alcobev cartons,
yeah.
which we also did, but I
Of
think they
course.
were far better.
True.
And that was one thing which enticed us. Of course, there has been some setback on that, but sooner or later, I think it will come back.
Sure.
And third thing, I think we also look at location. Does a particular acquisition gives a locational advantage?
Yep. Yep.
And these are the main 3 things I think we look forward. And then of course, valuation is very important.
Of course.
We would never want to buy or take a company where the value proposition is disproportionate to the demand of
course.
the
Yep.
promoter.
Yep. Yep.
So these are the basic
Yeah.
principles.
And what about knowledge quotient? I mean, this is something you had, I think, maybe 20 years ago discussed, that there is a huge gap between the top players and those in the mid segment and at the middle of the pyramid, etc. So has that altered a little bit, and how much of a role does that play in your decision making? Because I mean, of course, the promoters are important, but then the trickle down of that in terms of because you have set very high standards within the industry about how to manufacture a box, so that has to get percolated. So,
Yeah, so that's what exactly I meant, that somebody like Manohar had an expertise in Alcobev,
right.
both starting from designing to
Sure.
execution.
Sure.
In a similar way, maybe little lesser way, MK has expertise in fluted
Of
cartons.
course. Yeah.
So I think we do a lot of fluting and we know that we do it well. But I think they have certain innovative ideas in that,
Sure.
that segment,
Sure.
which also is important.
Sure.
Coming to the technological gap, which used to exist a few years back, I
Yep.
think that is
Reduced.
reducing drastically. Earlier, you used to see folding carton players buying mostly second-hand machines on printing side.
Yep. Yep.
But today you see a lot of smaller players, middle players
Sure,
are
sure.
buying brand new
Yep,
machines.
yep.
So the technology gap is definitely reduced because they produce the same quality
Yep.
that maybe a bigger player
Yep.
like us or anybody else is producing.
Right, right. No, absolutely. And again, I mean, I know some numbers that we keep hearing about Parksons is 2000 CR and, what you're able to do in terms of the top line, etc. But I remember at Sri City when we had met at the inauguration of the plant, you had sort of set a target of 5000 CR, which I thought was great because, and of course, it would be ideal that we have, at least 10 5000 CR Indian companies operating at the scale of Parkson. So I want to also understand how close are you to that target and
So if I remember correctly, when I made a statement that was in 2017,
correct,
I said 10 years is the time.
correct.
2027.
So we have 3 years to go.
So I think I do not know whether we'll reach 5,000, but I think we should definitely be closer
Close
to
to
that,
that.
or maybe higher. I
Right.
don't know because a lot of things depend on economic situation.
Yep.
A lot of things depend on how the folding carton industry itself moves, how replacement of plastic is going to happen,
Of course.
and that will pave a way for better growth for folding carton.
Sure, sure.
But I am sure that if we made a target, it was based on certain calculations of growth
Right.
and our own perspective of business.
Yep, yep.
And I am confident that given economic conditions and our own well-managed setup,
System, yep.
if we continue to do that,
Sure,
we
sure.
should be there by then.
Right, got it. And I know you're busy. I mean, of course, Parksons and everything, but I think almost every conference, seminar that I attend, you're there, and not just there, but copiously making notes, either mental notes or interfacing with people, delegates, etc. And very recently, we sort of met you at the sustainability conference in Mumbai. And I'm also curious to know what's happening in that space because for a long time there has been this whole belief that cartons, especially mono cartons, because it's cellulose based, etc., will replace the polymer based packaging. So again, curious to know how much of leverage have we got from that aspect of it, and have we been as an industry aggressive enough to promote it, because one also meets a lot of people in the flexible packaging and I see that industry far more proactive,
Right.
and also a little more loud in terms of how they're projecting the aspirations of that industry. So basically two questions: whether the cellulose based monocarton industry has been able to capitalize on this polymer versus cellulose base, and how aggressive have we been with our own way of moving forward.
Well, I think the folding carton industry has to move forward in terms of replacing plastic in whatever way they can.
True, true.
And I think a lot of things have happened in that respect, both starting from paperboard side to coating side.
Yep.
And I think ITC is an example where they produce a lot of paperboard which have replaced like PE coating, etc.
Sure.
In the same way, I think folding carton converters have to look at alternatives in terms of barrier coating which can replace plastics.
Yep.
And I think there is a lot of momentum driven by brand owners.
Yep. Yeah.
And most of the big brand owners are driving replacement of plastic. They have laid out their guideline that by so and so year we will be having
Right.
so much reduction.
Sure.
I think that is giving a chance to paper converters or any packaging converter
Right.
to look at replacement of plastic. And I think it's a big thing to replace. It's not easy to
True,
replace plastic.
true,
Plastic
true.
is cheaper.
Yes.
But at the same time, I think there is a lot of consciousness, and
Yeah.
I would say this is more amongst younger generation.
Yep. Yep.
If you look at any, young kid, and you ask him about plastic, he is aware
Yep.
that it's not a good thing.
Yep.
So he would want to carry
Yep.
not a Bisleri bottle or any other.
Yep.
He would like to carry his own,
Thermos flask or
glass
yeah,
bottle.
yeah,
So
yeah,
he's
yeah.
very conscious. So I
True,
think
true.
that will trigger
degree
a
of
lot of
sensitization, yeah.
innovation in that
Yeah,
respect.
yeah, yeah. No, again, interesting because you chaired a session at the conference that I was alluding to, and I think 3 or 4 things had emerged in that. And again, you didn't get time to conclude that session, but 3 things that emerged for us. One was the monomaterials catching up. How is that playing out in the paperboard space? Then lamination, because that was something that was the vogue in our industry. Is that fading out? And then again, because I know that Parksons is spending a lot of time in materials, looking at substrates. Anything interesting that's emerging in that could disrupt this particular space, and of course anything in the monocarton space that is possibly going to take advantage of all this.
Yeah. So, as you know that we are already into Gable-top packaging.
Yep.
And there is a lot of excitement on replacement of certain plastics
Yep.
with Gable-top.
Yes.
It's not only for milk, but I
Yes.
think it's for many other FMCG products that we are working on
Correct.
for replacing plastic with the Gable-top cartons.
Mm.
We are also looking at replacing water,
Yep.
not replacing but also getting into water packaging with Gable-top. And that's done quite successfully in US and many parts of Europe.
Nice. So this would be what, a replacement for the PET bottle, is it?
Yes,
In a way? Oh,
it's for
nice.
PET bottle.
Nice.
So it's already existing in US and Europe.
Okay.
And we are doing a lot of manufacturing of such cartons in India.
Okay, and
exporting it,
Okay.
where the filling is done with for water. So I think, as you know, water in plastic bottle is a very, very high consuming
Yes.
plastic material, which
Yep.
you can replace even 2%, 3%.
Yes.
It's a big
It's massive,
opportunity.
yeah, absolutely.
And this is very, environment friendly. And most of it is, I would say 90% of the material is paperboard. There are some plastic element in terms of
Okay.
e-coating or a cap. But I think that's one thing which is going to, a good thing for us, that we can take it for being already in the Gable-top
Yeah,
business.
yeah. But this would be what, a super sort of premiumized product, or at
No,
the
it
moment?
could be a normal
Nice.
water.
Yeah.
It's not premium. It
Right.
could be, the premium water could be a selling point to get higher price for the bottle of for the paper carton. But
Right,
since the cost of that is high,
right.
but I
Nice.
think it could be a normal water,
Fine.
which is like your
Yeah,
other
yeah.
plastic carton.
Right. Just for my understanding, you also have something called paper bottle, which is this different from that, or it's
No, it must be different. I mean,
Okay.
I am talking about Gable-top cartons
okay.
for water.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
The other thing was that, again, this was at the Carton, where you have a sort of design center come a R&D type team, and again some very interesting possibilities that are emerging in that. And it's interesting because all along we've always looked at this industry as one that has converted, but here I think 2 things emerged for me. One was ideation, and then secondly being one step ahead of the brands in a way, because you obviously understand materials and the materials of paper or paperboard much better than, say, a brand person. So it was interesting that suddenly there is a kind of a reverse engineering and that thought process. So 2 questions. One is, what was the rationale behind setting up the center at Carton, and what does it do? And secondly is, what have been the kind of product innovations that the team has come up with?
So, brands always face a challenge in terms of innovation.
Correct.
From packaging side. I think then they have their own packaging team, but I think in terms of actual material, actual process of manufacturing, we have better expertise.
Of
And I
course.
think our team ties up with their packaging development team, and we work together to develop a product either from structural point of view and also from functionality point of view.
Of course.
So we have been able to work with many brand owners in that respect and come out with unique products.
Yep.
So that is one thing which we are doing continuously.
Sure.
We are also trying to give an innovative product in terms of consumer experience. Whether it is for Valentine and or for any other festival for particular brand owners, we try
A
to
little
give
more
them
engagement,
more
interactive.
engagement.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we try to do, and luckily for us, we also have a digital press
Of course, yes.
with us, so we can also customize
Yep.
each carton in terms of promotion.
Sure.
that's one part that we have been doing for quite some time. But now going forward, we want to take it in a way that how we can replace plastic in many areas. And for that, we are trying to work on innovation, both on material and process engineering type,
Sure,
where
sure.
we can see that how we can take our
Take it.
innovation team far ahead than
Yeah.
what we have been
Nice.
doing till now.
It's also very nice because the kind of people who are, part of the brain power of these teams are also, one is pure designers, which is great. So there's a degree of madness to that whole process as opposed to our industry, which tends to be a little more, functional related. And the second is, of course, the kind of things that they come out. It's very playful. So I remember one was that combi pack which they had
Yeah,
done, which was
exactly.
fun for children, I think.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
there was something which for the chocolate brands which they had
Yeah.
done, which was again like terrible and multifunctional.
Yeah, yeah.
Fabulous stuff, fabulous stuff. So yeah.
So we've been doing that, and
Right.
when you talked about combi
Pack.
pack, I think our design team has designed something on the similar line, which is very interesting.
Okay.
And we are trying to put it to brand owners.
Sure.
It's proactively done.
Right.
And see whether they take it in a positive manner.
Of course.
So we keep our design team keeps doing that proactively and put it to the brand owners along
Yeah.
with other development that we do as a team together.
Of course, of course. And Mr. Kejriwal, we've discussed a little bit about Drupa, we've discussed a little bit about Parksons, the business plan, we've also discussed a little bit about where the industry is moving and the kind of products that you're creating. Question for you, because I know 13 manufacturing plants means you're obviously interacting constantly with manufacturers, their representatives, etc. I won't say that, do you have any advice for them? Because I mean, they are also, very big players in their own thing. But what I sometimes don't understand is how much are they able to meet the present needs of, say, the industry, which is specifically India, and how much of that is sort of in sync with some of the concerns and challenges that, say, converters such as you and of course the others in the industry have. So do you think there is an adequate amount? Because sometimes I feel the machines are either having too many bells and whistles, or specific lines like FMCGs, which are customized to develop certain products, that the machines are not in sync with those product lines, for instance. Sometimes do you feel a little exasperated about this, and is there any sort of input that you would have for manufacturers?
So it's very difficult to coordinate their filling lines or manufacturing line with
Correct.
our system. But at the same time, we have to upgrade our quality of product
Yeah.
as the manufacturing speeds go up on their manufacturing line. For example, there are products which used to be packed at 150 per minute, but now that is going up to
It's
700,
doubled, yeah.
800.
Oh, wow.
So it's like our product has become like an engineering product today. It's no longer just a packaging product.
That's true.
So you have to upgrade the quality of your printing, cutting, creasing, etc. So that there is no bottleneck on their manufacturing process.
Sure, sure.
And if they have to understand something from our side, I think we are always available to help them out to streamline their production.
Yep, yep.
But I think the collaboration which is needed in terms of manufacturing process and packaging process needs to be further strengthened. I think from folding carton perspective, it may be in the flexible packaging, it's already happening.
Existing, yeah.
But I don't know whether it's really happening on folding carton side so much.
There is sometimes a struggle to match our production process with their production process in terms of delivery times. And I thought that was a kind of a genuine response of a person who's feeling that with a little bit of technology upgrade, he could be able to do. Which brings me to the next point, which is digital technology. How is that in a way boosting packaging? And again, at Drupa, while you were there, was there something that in terms of machine learning, in terms of even AI, something in these hardware machines that is sort of helping or could help our industry?
See, I think digital technology can only be a complementary technology at the moment, because it's got limitation both in terms of volume that it can produce.
Sure.
Again, in terms of cost effectiveness,
Right.
it is only viable for small lots. It's
Yep.
not viable for big lots,
Right.
because offset or flexo has matured to a level
Yeah.
where they can produce high volume at a low
Yep.
cost.
True, true.
So I think in that sense, digital will only be a complementary
Yeah.
technology,
Hmm.
and offset or flexo will still rule for folding carton.
Yep.
So that's definitely one part.
Hmm.
In terms of other digital AI, I don't think in Drupa there was anything much on
Much.
AI. But certain innovations in terms of productivity enhancement or quality control, I think we were fascinated by what we saw at Bobst,
Okay.
some of the things, and our people were very much, enthusiastic about knowing what they are trying to do.
Sure.
So I
Sure.
think there are one or two things which are being done on automation side, like embedding a chip in a die,
Nice.
wood, and then getting full feedback of that. I think those are some of the things which are moving towards increased productivity,
Sure,
etc.
sure. So at the moment, would it be fair to say that when our industry talks of digital and integrating that, it basically becomes two things. One is marketing campaigns, to some extent, some of these, notional things that can be attached. And the second is, of course, things like anti-counterfeiting or track and trace. Has it right now provided only that role or is doing that role? And is there a possibility to do more?
So I don't think there is anything more than that at the
That
moment,
at the
but
moment,
I think
yeah.
it will evolve
It'll
over a
evolve.
period of time. And any innovation that or digital solution that a converter talks about,
Sure.
at the end of the day, the cost is a big parameter,
True.
and no brand owner is willing to pay
Yep,
anything extra for his packaging.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
there is a big dilemma. How do you innovate and
Yep.
then give a solution to the brand owner?
The other thing is right now the studio which is in Chinchpokli, and this is, I know, your old neighborhood,
Yeah.
and just a short while, not short while, I mean it seems like a short while ago, but it's 40 years ago, but you were in Lal Bagh, and Parksons was a particular kind of operation, and today of course you build the empire, as it were. So basically, I mean, there are two or three questions here. One is, of course, what everybody wants to know, and I think you're constantly asked this is, what is the magic Parkson's formula and what is the magic Mr. Kejriwal formula? And the other thing is, you really did not have an example within the industry to follow. So obviously you were looking at, when you were building this kind of manufacturing clout, you were probably looking at automobiles, or you were looking at, some other tech industry in terms of how manufacturing should be set up and how factories should be set up. So what was again the method of, doing this? One is of course the finance part of it, but the actual nuts and bolts and setting up factories and setting up these lines, etc. So what was the formula and the method in that madness from Lal Bagh to this huge empire?
See, my philosophy has always been to keep things simple
Okay.
and focus. So when, say for example, we wanted to set up a plant for folding cartons in Daman in 2000,
That's true.
I think I had certain ideas how the plant should be in terms of lean manufacturing, straight line production, right from paper to printing to die cutting to folding gluing
Yep.
in one row.
Correct.
And this
Yep.
has come basically a learning from seeing plants abroad.
Of course.
But there's at the same time to think also in terms of how the process will benefit the quality of the product,
Sure.
how the manufacturing in terms of lean line will help in getting the right quality,
Sure.
right productivity.
Sure.
I think the first plant, building the first plant was a great experience.
Of course.
And the mistake that we did was that I could not think bigger at that time than what we thought of in the first plant.
This would be in terms
In-
of space or scale?
In terms of space, and that we had bought a very small area,
Right.
thinking that was big enough. But then
You
I
outgrew it
realized
in no
within
time.
2-3 years that, and with that experience, I think in 2007 when we built our Chakan
Chakan,
plant,
yeah.
that was a mega plant
Yeah.
in my mind.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you were there at that time.
Yes.
And the kind of plant we built was for future.
Yep.
And at that time, my thinking was that the big plant will give two advantages. One, in terms of the best manufacturing practices,
Sure.
and opportunity to grow in one location without any hindrance.
Sure.
And bigger the plant, I believed in those days,
Right.
better is your profitability.
Nice.
Because your overheads cover a large volume. You have to have the quality control manager, you have to have the production manager, you have to have your CTP, etc., which are irrespective of how many printing lines are you operating.
True, true.
So when you operate large number of printing lines in one location, I think you have a great cost advantage.
Sure, sure.
And as you know, the competition is so severe that if you can reduce your standing cost, standing operating cost,
Yep.
I think you benefit quite a lot.
Substantially.
So that was one of the thought I always had that, and I used to say sometimes within our own selves, internally, that we should have a plant which is not producing less than 3,000 tons per month.
Nice.
And I truly believe that if a plant of folding carton produces around 3,000, it can be 2,000, 2,500, can be one of the most economical plants in terms of cost advantage.
Sure, sure.
And today we have many of our plants among 12 or 13 because some of the plants we acquired were not
Of
that
course.
big.
Yep.
But our original 4 or 5 plants are of that size
Yep.
that we
Yep.
are able to produce close to 2,000 tons every
True,
month.
true. But what would you say today to some young boy who's probably in a small town in Tamil Nadu or in Jharkhand, who's aspiring to be the next Mr. Kejriwal? I mean, what are the things typically he should be looking if he wants to dream as big as you, in terms of economies of scale, in terms of how to raise capital, and of course,
No, I think it's a journey.
it's a journey.
It's not that somebody aspiring cannot achieve that.
Right.
But if he thinks that today starts and within 2 years he's going to achieve some great, growth is not possible because
Sure.
we are into B2B business.
Yep.
We are not a brand.
Of course.
So that I can get advantage of a brand. We are into B2B. We are dependent on customer. We are service oriented in that respect.
Yes.
So it's a journey.
Of course.
But one thing I would definitely advocate that one should always look at niche products and specialization.
Nice.
If you are going to produce what everybody else is doing, I think the growth will be limited.
Hampered, yeah.
But if you can get one product range or one segment
Yep.
where you can specialize, I think the growth can be faster.
Sure.
So I think that is one thing
Yeah.
that I would like to see. On terms of raising finance, I think I would say that private equity today is the norm
Yep.
among a lot of middle level players. But I think
True.
we saw that way back in 2006.
That's true. That's
And at that time we were only 50 crore turnover.
true. Yep.
And when we wanted to set up our Chakan plant, I was very clear that I do not want to take debt on my head because my idea was to build a top class international quality plant.
Yep. Yep.
And that is the time internally I discussed with some of the financial people, and then the idea of private equity came in.
Right.
So I think I would say that in folding carton segment, I can proudly say that we brought in the private equity culture.
That's true. That's
And
true.
that is one thing which definitely converters are looking at it, and some of them have got success also. But at the same time, there is a risk because
Yep.
all these private equity people are looking at a very high ROI.
Yep.
Their, ambition is to get 25% year on year
Of course.
return. So once you are able to deliver that successfully, it's okay.
Yep.
But there have been examples where private equity has induced money into
Yep.
folding carton or
Yes.
printing industry and they failed miserably.
Yep. Yep.
So you have to balance it out in terms of what you can deliver
Sure.
and what is the USP you have.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
No, and you mentioned something earlier, and again, I mean, I always say this, that you're being humble, is that you kept things simple. But I remember the first time, I don't know if you remember this, when I met you in Lalbagh was, I think, somewhere in 93, 94. I don't remember the exact date, but You had done a fairly extensive survey in those days, which was unheard of. I think Anderson and
Yeah,
IMRB, etc., had gone,
yeah,
and you actually studied some of the aspects of,
sure.
what the packaging industry was then, and probably, and then I think you took your big step of moving out of
Yeah.
Mumbai, which of course people were shocked by, and they thought that, what is the matter with him, kind of a thing. So there is substantial amount of groundwork, plus of course your own network, where I know that one is intentional source, which would be a research survey, and then what we call in the journalistic fraternity the non-intentional source, where you pick up conversations, and you're very good at that. So you did pick up a lot of data and then came to this
Yeah,
decision.
so when we wanted to diversify from commercial printing into packaging,
Sure.
I think there was clear, idea that this is going to thrive.
Sure.
But then it was not that just a hunch feel,
Yeah.
and then you get into
Of
it
course.
straight away.
Correct.
So we employed Arthur Anderson
Yeah.
and IMRB
Correct.
to survey in those days, and they charged me a bomb in those days
Yes.
in 1993.
Right.
And the insight they gave us across industry segments
Yep.
was phenomenal.
True. True.
And that made us think, and our perception of going into packaging was, really endorsed by them.
Yep.
And then we went into that.
Yep. Yep.
Even on commercial printing, when we used to deal with brand owners, we always kept our eyes open
Yep.
in terms of what we were talking to them and what their pain points were.
Yep. Yeah.
And during those conversations, we did pick up that packaging was their pain point.
Pain point. Yeah.
They were not able to get the right color on their packaging. And
Yeah.
that was astonishing for me because being a playing card manufacturer,
Yes.
color was something
De
which
facto,
we always
yeah, yeah.
achieved.
True. True.
Because you know that all the 55 cards have to have the same color.
True.
And we understood color, uniformity very well.
Yep.
And
Yep.
some of these things we picked up from our brand owners.
Sure.
And that gave us another, endorsement
Yep.
that this is the area to get into it. So I fully agree that we did listen to the customer,
Yeah.
and we also did scientific
Huge amount of
research,
groundwork, yeah, no,
before
absolutely.
we
Yeah.
took a big jump.
True, true. And again, Mr. Kejriwal, curious to know, because I know you are, among other things, a great listener, but you also are, on your radar are many industries. So again, just keen to know what's happening in the various spaces. I mean, you've mentioned FMCG, where of course you're very strong. Alcobev is, but and we've had, of course, Demon, then we had GST, then we, of course, COVID hit us quite badly. Which are the segments where you think packaging is in a way prospering? Which are the territories you feel, because you're obviously mapped across the country, which are the states where you think there seems to be greater sort of, traction? And what are the things, more importantly, you're hearing from the brands themselves? And third is this, what you just mentioned, have their pain points truly being addressed by our industry?
So there have been emergence of many new industries. A great example is mobile phones.
Mobile phones, yeah.
I mean, there was no packaging for mobile
Correct,
phones,
correct.
say 10 years back,
Yep,
really,
yep.
in a big way.
True.
But today you see the amount of packaging that is required,
Sure.
whether folding carton, fluted cartons or rigid cartons.
Yep.
It's a big industry growth during last 10 years.
Yes.
In a similar fashion, a lot of other industries are coming up, whether it's electronic-led industry, also in terms of many other
Gift boxing and all that.
gift boxes, of course, is there, but like toys,
Of course.
toys manufacturing was not there in India in a big way. That has come up very well.
Sure.
Even garment industry is thriving today, though not to the extent
Yep,
which we would
yep.
expect.
True.
So a lot of new industries are emerging. And if you see the replacement of China as a manufacturing hub into India in a big way, I think that can lead to a lot of new industry requirements.
Sure.
And when we talk about paper-based packaging, basically two industry which are corrugated and folding cartons emerge.
Yeah.
And I think there was a seminar some years back of VHS,
Yes.
and I was asked, how do you see, and I was not in corrugating industry, even fluted cartons was not in a big way.
Correct.
And I was asked this question, how do you see corrugating industry and folding carton industry? And I said, they will emerge and they will become like one industry. And that is what we are seeing, that a lot of folding carton manufacturers are going for fluted cartons, which is part of the corrugating business.
Of course.
And similarly, a lot of corrugating industry are moving into printed cartons in a big way with a lot of FFG machines or high-end flexo machine. So I think these industries will fulfill the needs. A lot of emerging industries, whether it's white goods, mobile phones, toys, or electronic manufacturing, which is going to come in a big way in India.
Sure, sure. So again, coming to an important question, one is education, which would be education for a larger ecosystem out there, brands, government, officials, etc. And then the other is the new breed of people. I know that you yourself, if my research sort of says is 1972 batch of GIPT once upon, would that be correct? Yeah.
Not 72, starting 72.
Starting, so 75, right? Yeah. So, and obviously the industry has, by leaps and bounds changed. So basically two questions as one of the, the dominant forces in the industry, how important is the kind of new education that is required, and in what manner should it be given to people out there in the ecosystem, and more importantly young people who are entering this industry, because again I find this huge gap.
Yeah, I think the education in terms of college is fine. I mean, that is one can acquire by reading or offline, etc. But I think what industry requires is a practical training.
True.
Where the job can be done on the machine, the training can be done on the machine. And I think this is something which is required drastically, because you don't get trained operators, you don't get trained technicians on the pre-press side or manufacturing side. I think that is one part which we lack today.
Sure.
And as you know, most of the colleges are running without any good equipment.
That's true.
Where you can get trained.
Yep.
And I think some of the machinery manufacturers, of course, are doing that. For example, Bobst.
Yep.
They've got their own, program for training.
Yep.
But unfortunately for printing, we don't have anything by any of the manufacturers.
Yep. Yep.
So I think we need a training institute very badly in India, where one can go and train operators and learn the basics. I think that is need of the hour.
Sure.
But who's going to take that forward is a question mark. But I think that is a big necessity.
So what do you do? Because I mean, in terms of operational excellence, I mean, you're again ticking all the boxes. In terms of the efficiency on the shop floor, you're ticking all the boxes. The productivity index is quite good. But so the point is, again, what is the methodology you're following for your own team? Because it's now a massive army, right?
Yeah, it's the training programs that we have, a structured program for our operators, and how do you operate a machine.
Right.
And since we have a large fleet of people, there are some bright guys who can come forward, mentor other people, and see how we can increase the productivity. So we are not restricted that somebody who is an expert in one plant cannot, he would travel to another plant and spend some time. So I think it's a training program that has to be on a continuous basis.
Sure.
But at the same time, being a large organization with so many printing machines and so many operators, we might be thinking that we are doing the great job everywhere, but it's not the fact.
Right.
Some places we do a great job, but some places we have people who are not fully trained up to the mark. So we try to analyze that. Among all our plants, we have a ranking every month based on all the parameters that we can evaluate, and based on that we give a ranking to each plant.
Sure.
And there is a competition among plants. So every plant head wants to see that where is he lacking, and then he tries to aspire to get his people on the roll in a right direction. So I think it's a continuous process, and I think you have to have proper measurement of your productivity and analyze and see what is lacking. And many times it can happen that even your machines are not well maintained. I mean, I would say that we try to do that, but
Of course.
you never know out of so many machines, somewhere some machine is not properly maintained, and that is giving loss of productivity. So
True,
I
true.
think it's both training of your people and maintenance of your machine up to the mark
Sure.
are very important in terms of keeping your productivity high.
Yeah, yeah. Now it will be interesting to have a look at your training guidelines or whatever, because I think that can be a template which probably can be replicated by some of the training institutes, maybe short-term 6-month courses or something like that. Again, I know we've touched upon this, but a word of advice, because many people are trying to enter packaging. I remember your talk in Kochi, it was, where, and I must mention this to you, that even today in Kochi, those 10 points that they are, it's referred to as Guru Mantra. Almost everybody in Kochi, Tamil Nadu and South Karnataka, they follow that as a kind of a Bible, literally. So it was fantastic, inputs. Again, point is, what would be the advice you would have for people? Because almost everybody thinks it's a high growth, unmatched profitability. Let me just get into packaging. And I remember 2 things you had mentioned in that Kochi talk. One was something to do with inventory, and the second was to look at sizes of machines. Right. And then sort of correlate that with what is ultimately required by the market. So any specific advice or word of caution, more importantly, for people who are just blindly entering packaging?
So first and foremost, I would say that folding carton industry, or packaging for that matter,
Sure.
is definitely a high growth industry.
Yep, yep.
Because as we grow our economy from say 3 trillion to 5 to 10,
right,
consumption is going to play out well.
Yep, true, true.
And when consumption plays out, you require packaging.
Sure.
So on positive note, I would say that folding carton industry is a growth industry.
Yep, yep.
But the word of caution that I would like to put it, that it's a highly capital intensive industry in that sense.
True.
Both on fixed investment of machine and also your running investment in working capital.
Yep, yep.
Whether it is your debtors
Yep.
or your working capital. Because as you know, folding carton doesn't come as a standard product. It's like so many sizes, so many varieties
SKUs,
of. So you have to keep large inventory, you have to keep lot of other type of material.
Sure.
So you have to be very conscious of your capital investment.
Sure.
If you buy a machine, you must be able to analyze how much of percentage of utilization you are going to achieve in the first year, at the end of first year and second year.
Sure.
If you are underutilizing your machinery, it can really, recoil on you. At the same time, inventory has to be managed extremely well. Any investment on inventory can play havoc with you. So you have to monitor it very strongly. Though it is not a perishable product, papers as such.
True.
But then it becomes half the value over a period of time.
Correct.
And you can lose a lot of money.
So how does one manage that in these times when everything is so volatile?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a big concern at the moment.
Yeah.
And especially when the demand is on the lower side, it becomes a big question mark.
Sure.
When the demand is good, then the material is flowing well, then still your inventory is well maintained.
True.
So you have to really balance your inventory level very well. So that's second advice that I would give.
Good advice.
And third, of course, folding carton, if you are going to produce mass volume products and everybody is running after that,
yes,
because of the simple fact that it gives you an immediate volume.
Yeah.
But I think that is not going to pay you your return on capital.
Yep.
You have to have specialization.
Yep.
You have to look at certain niche area, whether it is export, whether it is unique product,
or super
whether
specialization.
a particular segment you specialize and you give a solution
Nice.
and collaborate with that segment well.
Yep.
I think these are some of the facts which you have to keep in mind while starting packaging.
Sure.
So it's not just buying an equipment and starting packaging. It's
Got
not
it.
simple as
so
that.
simple. Yes, got it. Mr. Kejriwal, just a few questions. These are now from your peers. These are people in the industry who. So what we did was before this interview, we spoke to some of them, asked them that if you met Mr. Kejriwal in an elevator and had 5 minutes with him, what would you like to ask him? So I'll just quickly run through these questions. The first one is that in this hyper competitive world, do you agree that not every SKU needs to make a profit? You could have some sectors or SKUs which would make a loss and only add to the top line. In this sense, would you agree if this is a good strategy to adopt? And again, what is your advice?
So I would say that you have to keep your production volume very well balanced.
Okay.
What I mean to say, you have to have runners, as we call it. Runners means which will keep your machine running. But I think that has to be a certain percentage.
Nice.
It cannot be 90% that you thrive on runners. Because runners will give you very low margin.
Correct.
Or maybe no margin
Negligible,
sometimes.
yeah.
So I think you should keep a balanced approach.
Sure.
You should keep, as we call runners, or feeder for your machine.
Right.
Only to certain extent.
Got it.
It can be high, as high as 40-50% at a reasonable level. But then, if you are going to keep running the machine without any profit just
Sure.
to get a volume, is not a good strategy.
Got it.
And I would say that one cannot make a loss on a SKU, but I think there could be a situation where a customer demands 10 varieties of cartons from you,
Right.
and you may be making profits in 7 or 6, and you may not be making profits in 4. So you have to balance that way.
Right.
You cannot say that all 10 products that you are supplying to a customer are all going to be
reap
making you
benefits, yeah.
super profits.
Got
So
it.
I think you have to balance that.
Right.
But I would say that just to make your machine run
Right.
all the time
Right.
is not a good idea.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Nice. The second thing is, second question is, a lot of companies are moving towards the valuation strategy game, not realizing that not every company will get acquired. Any words of caution? And also, I think, how do you build a brand? Because
Yeah,
you
I
have,
think-
I mean, again, you've been modest, but you have built a brand. So,
Yeah, I think valuation game is being played out because of the money that private equity
correct.
people have
Good
at
offer.
their disposal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they make investment thinking that, they will make a return which is very high.
Yeah.
And it may not be true everywhere because they take a calculated risk and make the investment.
Sure.
But I think valuation part is, you cannot go with the idea of making your company valuable
Yes.
just because somebody is going to invest into that or somebody is going to buy you out. That is not the idea. I think you have to be careful when you take money from private equity. I believe the onus on you is very high because you are playing with somebody else's money and you cannot just think that the money has come without any
course,
obligation on your part. It's a free money
It's free
because
lunch,
there is no
yeah.
interest obligation.
Yep.
I
Yep.
think this is not the right policy to adopt. And if many people think that by getting private equity money, they can, run business and create value, I don't think that's the right thing to do.
Right. Right.
Ultimately, value will be created only by the business strategy that you
True.
adopt,
True. True.
whether it's your own money, whether it's a private equity money or it's a borrowed money.
Of course.
If you have a right strategy and a right business plan, then only I think the value will be created.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once you create a value, then whether it's your 100% company or you are owning minority or you are still having majority, doesn't matter.
Yep.
As long as you are in control of business. And I can truly share with you today, Warburg Pincus, who is our main investor, owns
course.
majority
Yep.
in our company.
Sure.
But at no point of time, it has been 3 years, we have felt that we are not owning the company 100%. We are running it as passionately
Yep.
and with the same amount of ownership
Yes.
that we were running when we were 100%.
Yep.
So I think the obligation on the part of promoters getting money from private equity becomes higher according to me because that is what my true belief will be.
Yep.
So you have to be careful when you borrow money I mean, it's in my sense, it's a borrowing money.
Yes.
So it may not be without any
Correct.
outflow of interest, but the obligation is very high.
Well said. The next question, I think we've covered this. And as an acquirer, what does Parkson seek in a company when you go shopping? I think you've already answered this. This is an interesting one. Do you feel Indian packaging companies can go global by acquiring businesses overseas? If yes, which market should we look at?
So I would say that Western markets, US or Europe, are very difficult to enter. But as a company, we have started the journey with a plant that we are starting in Tanzania.
Okay.
We have already rolled out our production this month. And we saw a big opportunity in Africa.
Okay.
And that's our first foray into Africa. And we feel that Indian entrepreneurs have an opportunity in these areas like Africa or United Arab Emirates, etc.,
Middle East,
to go and try their luck. Because these are the growth centers. If you look at Europe or US, I mean, the growth is
there's a certain saturation.
very saturated, and there are players who are giants. Against them you cannot fight.
Compete,
But these are areas where you can bring in your expertise of Indian operations, both in terms of trained people and technology.
Right.
And I think there is an opportunity.
So this is the 14th plant in a way, technically.
Yes.
And in Dar es Salaam or?
In Dar es Salaam proper.
Nice.
We've just started this month.
And just for my understanding, as big as Chakan?
No, this is a smaller
modest.
plant. We have started with one printing line.
Nice.
And we can grow up to 3 printing line in the current plant.
Oh, okay. So again,
so we will move as and when we achieve reasonable volume.
Interesting territory. Yeah.
But it's been a challenge.
Yes.
But though we always like to take challenges. But I think the kind of quality that we are going to produce compared to what is available now,
of course,
will give us a big advantage.
Got it.
To capture customers.
And again, sorry, one more export question. What's a good export strategy to have in terms of percentage of turnover? I know that Parksons is foraying in that space. So how does it work?
I would say that one should look at exports as a part of strategy.
Sure.
I don't know what the percentage could be. It depends on what product line you are in and what kind of technology you are adopting. But ballpark, I would say a large company or a medium company, and when you say medium company, it could be 200 crore turnover, a large company could be 1500 crore turnover. I think as a strategy, I would say anything between 15% upwards would be a good strategy to adopt out of the total revenue.
Nice.
So if you are a 1,000 crore company, I think you should try to achieve at least 150 crore of turnover to exports.
And are we reaping the benefits of India Plus? Are you seeing any
Yes,
ripple
I think
effect?
so. I think definitely China Plus.
China Plus.
China Plus will definitely play, and certain advantages that India has because they have come to a certain level of technology. Raw material availability is good in India.
That's true.
And manufacturing cost compared to European countries or other countries is much lower because of lower manpower cost. So I think we have an opportunity.
We do.
There is an arbitrage.
Sure. How do packaging companies like Parksons look at the in-house packaging needs? Again, we've touched upon some of this. And are you setting any trends, something we discussed earlier? Will you be setting trends for the brands to follow? I think 2 things you're already doing. One is the design center and of course the R&D on material. So I think we've covered that. Again, China Plus we've already discussed, but Turkey, Mexico, Poland, Vietnam have leveraged the China Plus One space. Do you feel India is going to grab that opportunity or we've missed the bus?
No, I don't think we have missed the bus, but I think India is emerged. I mean, if you look at mobile manufacturing in India and export that they are doing is a big thing.
Sure.
Similarly, we might have missed certain segments like garment to Vietnam or Bangladesh. But I think with the policy that we have now announced for semiconductor or other areas, I think India has not missed the bus. And with the kind of progressive things we have seen in the past and continue to see, India will definitely
benefit. And then one question which I think is from our side is that, I mean, when we saw the beginning of the Parksons journey and we used to crunch data, we saw typically, 4 to 5 states contributing to the packaging economy in this country. So two parts to this question. Now that you have a geographical spread, do you see a greater sort of, equality among the states in terms of packaging dividend? Has it sort of now moved out of these 5 states? And are you seeing sort of more participation by other states, where you can see that packaging plants are going to come up, and automatically as brands grow across the country, tier 2, tier 3, etc., that the packaging spirits, as they say, will, further get boosted?
Yeah, so for us now, having multiple locations across India,
Correct.
we are tracking region-wise. So we are tracking our requirement or growth in west, north, east, south.
Of course.
So we believe that west and north still contribute the largest
Of
segment
course, yeah.
for Indian requirement. But I think south is growing, and south will also take some growth momentum faster
Sure.
compared to earlier period.
Yep.
But I think north and west will continue to be the main areas of growth for India.
Sure.
And central India is also growing. So I think things will continue the way they have
Right.
continued.
Yeah, so you're talking of Indore, you're talking a little bit of Sri City,
Yeah.
and
Sri City comes in south, Sri
South, so
City,
yeah,
Bangalore
yeah,
or
yeah.
Tirupur
Yes, yes.
or any parts of other Andhra,
Right,
Chennai.
of course.
And north, of course, you talk about the entire
Correct.
Himachal
Absolutely.
or, Uttarakhand,
Sure.
Noida,
Nice.
Punjab.
Yep, yep.
West, of course.
So wherever you have
Maharashtra,
the
Gujarat.
hubs, in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. Great. I think that those are the questions from your contemporaries in the industry. One last mischievous question is that all of them wanted to meet you. The question for you is, who do you want to meet?
In what respect?
I mean, one of the persons in the industry that they wanted to meet was you. Who would you be wanting to meet in our industry?
So I think I have written in my this Power
Pranav Bhai,
100, Pranav Parekh.
Yeah, Pranav Parekh,
It's
yeah.
always a pleasure to be with Pranav Bhai.
Of course.
He's such a humble person, but the kind of knowledge
That's true.
he exudes for the printing fraternity is great, and I definitely would want to meet him.
Sure.
Another person from industry, of course, is Narendra of Pragati,
Of course.
and equally humble,
Yes.
down to earth, and learn so much from him. You can
Yes.
learn so much from him. And one thing which I admire about Narendra is that he keeps his profitability as high as he used to be doing it 10 years back. He
That's
doesn't
true.
want to do any business at a lower profitability.
That's well
and that's
said.
something which is admirable on his part.
That's true.
So definitely I would like to meet him and understand
Right.
more on that philosophy.
Well said.
Yeah.
So confederacy of gentlemen within the industry. That's
Yeah.
great. Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Kejriwal. Is there anything, final thoughts that you would want to sort of
No,
share
I want
with
to
us?
share only one thing,
Please.
that the ideas can come from anywhere. And
Yeah.
one of the ideas that we came across was 6-7 years back,
Okay.
in terms of entering into a product line where we were trying to do something with plastic film, plastic sheets.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And then we came out with a product called Wipe and Clean.
Yes.
And then, as you know, my granddaughter started a company along with a friend of ours, and it's called Skillmatics.
Yep.
And I think the happy thing about that is that they require a lot of printed material. It's not a digital fora.
Nice.
It's a physical products that they manufacture. And I think the kind of success they've got, where printing and packaging requirement is huge, is a great thing that has emerged out of an idea that Parksons had.
That's true.
And
That's
today they are
nice.
running a very successful business. The company, I can share it, is already valued at $250 million as on today, in a span of 8 years. And when my granddaughter asked me, I said, you will go far ahead of Parksons.
Well said.
And I think, and the idea is that it has emerged out of an idea coming out of our forte of printing.
Yep, yeah.
So that's something which is very happy
Very interesting. Yeah.
about it. So that's something which I want to share on your forum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that is something so satisfactory and a thing of happiness within myself,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
my own granddaughter
Yeah.
along with Dhanil Sheth, who
Yeah.
is the CEO of the
course.
company, are
Yeah.
running together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And such a successful company,
Yeah.
but requiring huge printed material.
That's true. Yeah. So the genes are intact.
Yeah.
It's a question of diversifying of the genes.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much, Mr. Kejriwal. Always a pleasure to have a conversation with
Thank
you,
you.
and always,
Thank you,
yeah.
Ramu.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
been
you.
great.
Yeah. Over and out from our side, from the PrintWeek Studio. Thank you.